Okay, we are officially halfway through the season. If you go and check the Laliga table, you will see that Barcelona, the defending champions, are not first, second, or third. The team is sitting in 4th place, just 3 points ahead of Athletic Club, and it has suffered some terrible defeats that we didn't expect. Now, under normal circumstances, the club will be in a crisis, and that's kind of what is happening right now. We can all agree the atmosphere around the club is mostly negative. Whether it's people criticizing Lewandowski's performances on what seems like a weekly basis, or raising questions around Xavi's capability to build an ideal Barca team. What's true is that there isn't a single reason that has caused this poor start to the season. It's multiple factors piling up which has led to the results that we see today. So in this video, I thought it would be a good idea to first review the season so far, talk about some of the issues, and also what we can expect from the team in the second half of the season.
But I think as long as they play well and win the game and get 3 points to start the season in a positive manner, I think that's fine.
Thinks about the shot now, he'll let one go. Oh, and that's the closest they've come. Barcelona are held to a goalless draw by little Getafe.
João Felix! Oh my goodness, what a story! Providing. No. How's he done that? That's easier to score. What's he doing? What's he doing? Cancelo! Unbelievable! What a turnaround!
Think about the important goals that he has scored for Barcelona. This, right now, may just be the most important goal of the season so far for Barcelona.
Are you worried for that lack of effectiveness of your team?
Yes, of course, and I think we need to improve.
The first game of the season was already a rough start. Barca drew against Getafe with Raphinha being sent off in the first half, which was weirdly almost identical to how Xavi's team started last season's league campaign, drawing against Rayo Vallecano with Busquets being sent off as well. Anyways, after that, Barca picked up a win against Cadiz thanks to some late goals from Pedri and Ferran Torres. The next game was an exciting match against Villarreal away from home, where Barca came back from 3-2 down to win 4-2, and all the headlines after the game were about one player, Lamine Yamal. Of course, he made his debut towards the end of last season, but this season he has truly announced his arrival to the first team. Not only he has played regularly every week, but he also scored his first Barca goal, becoming the youngest La Liga goal scorer of all time. September started with another late winner, this time thanks to Lewandowski converting a penalty. The next 2 games were goal festivals. Barca beat Real Betis and Antwerp 5-0. Then Xavi's team turned an impossible scenario into the reality. Barca made a late comeback win against Celta Vigo. 2 late goals from Lewandowski and a Cancelo winner won the game. And for the first time ever, the script was flipped on Iago Aspas. But all good things come to an end, and that's what happened in the next game against Mallorca. Fermin Lopez's late equalizer saved Barca from a bad loss. Next, thanks to some luck, we grinded results against Sevilla and Porto. Leading up to the Clásico, Barca drew against Granada and narrowly beat Athletic Club and Shakhtar. Now, usually when Barca loses in a Clásico at home, it's because we were extremely poor. But this time, it was different. For the majority of the game, Xavi's team was better than Ancelotti's, until Bellingham decided to have another one of his magical moments and single-handedly won Madrid the game. The Clásico was followed by another narrow win, this time over Real Sociedad, a loss to Shakhtar, and a comeback this time against Alaves, and a draw against Rayo. Before the Atletico game, Barca qualified for the next round of the Champions League for the first time in 2 seasons, and the Atletico game could not have been any sweeter as Felix scored the winning goal against his former/current club, which again was another one of those impossible scenarios because usually Barca is at the opposite end of this script, but things came crashing down this time against Girona. Barca lost 4-2 at home in a game where Girona fully showcased why they're top of the league, and that was followed by another embarrassing loss, this time to Antwerp. It didn't end there because Barca also drew against Valencia in the next game, and it looked like 2023 was going to end with another disappointing draw against Almeria. But a late winner from captain Sergio Roberto won us the 3 points, which I think saved the club from a full-on crisis mode. And that's where we are today. Oh, and we also recently lost 3-2 in a friendly against Club America, but let's forget that ever happened. One of the most glaring problems this season has been the inability to finish off chances, and Lewandowski has been at the center of majority of criticisms regarding this issue. When looking at the highest number of big chances missed this season across Europe's top 5 leagues, he sits in second place with 15 big chances missed, only behind Manchester City's Erling Haaland. As for Laliga, he sits at the very top. Raphinha is also in the top 10 with 8 big chances missed, which really shows how wasteful Barca have been so far this season. The good news is that one player in particular could solve this issue, and he's Barca's new signing, Vitor Roque. Power, speed, dribbling, Vitor is the complete package. And even before making his debut, the expectations are already through the roof. As a versatile player, he's able to play across the front three or as a second striker, although it has to be said his best position is through the middle, which means most likely he will be competing against Lewandowski for minutes in the second half of the season. Another area of the pitch where Barca have struggled this season is the midfield, specifically the central defensive position, which is currently occupied by Oriol Romeo. After joining the club in the summer from Girona for around 4 million euros, most didn't expect Romeo to be starting week in, week out, but that is what has happened after injuries to key midfielders like De Jong, Pedri and Gavi. And it's safe to say he has not been able to fill the shoes of his predecessor, Busquets. Numerous times throughout the season, Barca have been caught in the back by teams pressing because Romeo gave the ball away. It's clear he's not comfortable on the ball, which is one of the biggest red flags for any Barca midfielder. Gavi's ACL injury took him out for the rest of the season, and with Pedri's fitness issues continuing to remain present, it's hard to see how exactly Xavi can work around this problem without bringing a new midfielder, which Laporta himself hinted at by not ruling out the possibility of Barca signing a new midfielder in the January transfer window. If I had to personally pick the biggest problem that Barca have had this season, it will be the lack of keeping clean sheets and conceding so many cheap goals. From having one of the best defensive records in Laliga history, where Barca kept the most clean sheets in Europe and only conceded 20 goals in the league, to one of the worst defensive records in the league all in a span of less than a year. It has never been easier to play through on the break, and there was no better example of it than the Girona game where Barca were destroyed in transitions. Again, you could point to the midfield and the absence of Busquets, but it has to also be said Koundé and Araujo haven't been too convincing unlike last season, and the addition of Cancelo to the backline hasn't made things easier. Despite being incredible going forward, his defensive positioning and overall defending is very questionable. I think the addition of Vitor will help out the team massively, because if there's one thing that Barca have done well this season is create chances. But the biggest drawback remains in the midfield and figure out a way to cover up a weakness which more and more teams are exposing and taking advantage of. While admittedly the pressure on Xavi has never been greater, we are still far away from the point where his sacking should be considered an option, because most of the problems that we are facing right now are out of his hands. Anyways, that was my review of Barca midway through the season. Let me know if I missed anything, and if you want to help out the channel, leave a like and subscribe. Until the next video.